all the sports teams that exist. Certain countries have a big one or two, but we're proud to say our podcast is about the biggest team in the entire world.
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Yeah! This is the World's Team Podcast. All about the world's team, the Dallas Cowboys, baby. We're here to redefine what it means to be a fan of the gridiron game. It's not just America's team anymore. Nope. We're taking that star-studded pride and spreading it across the globe. Each week, we dive into all things Cowboys. From game analysis that'll have you on the edge of your seat, to reactions and all the latest news. Whether it's free agency frenzy, draft day drama, or injury reports that make us want to hug our lucky jerseys a little tighter. We're bringing in fan groups from all over the place, from Germany, France, Brazil, the UK, Canada, Japan. Everybody gets to share their 2 cents on America's favorite team.
Hey, here we go!
America's team! Mexico's team! World's team! My Dallas Cowboys!
And now your hosts, Paul Stewart and Mike Poland.
Hello, Cowboys Nation. Welcome to the World's Team. It's not just America's team, it is the World's Team. And sadly, our co-host, Mike Poland, is not here this week. But I have a fantastic special guest for you guys. He's one of my good buddies back there in Dallas. You know him as your guy next on Twitter, the king of Twitter spaces of all Cowboys Nation. Without further ado, here was bringing in. How's it going, bro?
Hey, man. As the star turns, and of course, as I like to say, my home away from home over here with my brethren. How we doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm just glad we're slowly getting back to winning ways. Like, because obviously the Giants game and the Steelers game, games that, we're now 3-2, which is positive. We're taking those miniature baby steps to kind of like try and get back to that promised land of the Super Bowl, hopefully. But we do have the Detriot Lions this week, which is going to be a really tough one. And as much as it pains me to say this, there is a likely chance we might still be 0-3 at home this weekend.
Indeed. Road Warriors, apparently. But, I mean, look, it's sometimes just a breakdown of the teams that you play and where you play them at, right? Last year, obviously, until the playoff game, undefeated at home. Which the Lions did appear last year at home, but for the most part, our tougher games were on the road than at home. So, the home road record's the thing. This year, much different case, right? We played tougher teams at home than on the road. Hence why we're currently 3-0 on the road and 0-2 at home. Looking to change that this Sunday, brother.
Oh, I really do hope so, man. Like, because when you look at the Detroit Lions, now you've got guys like Aiden Hutchinson. Guy's been an absolute stud, like St. Brown, wide receiver, Williams, the other wide receiver, who seems to be basically the dark horse of this game coming up, because he's the surprise element, I think, personally. Because obviously, when you look at St. Brown's statistics right now, it's not really shouting out like he's that number one wide receiver now. It's because Jared Goff is actually playing quite conservative in a really good way for the Lions. He's not turning the ball over. He's only through 2 interceptions or something along to that.
Right.
But they're playing really good, gritty football. And credit is due to Dan Campbell. He's making them very efficient in that way, getting them those types of wins.
Yeah, I mean, and look, their offensive coordinator was obviously a hot commodity for a coaching job. He ends up staying there. So that's a big check mark for them, the Slovak, and what they're able to do over there offensively and being into that system for the second year. Yeah, man. Coaching staff has a lot of continuity together, and they have an identity, right? We always talk about identity at times, and they definitely have an identity in what they want to get to with a soon to be head coach. I'd be very shocked if that young man does not get the job next year.
It wouldn't surprise me.
But although, as you talked about Williams being the guy, Hey, I see the guy to me who's been a little. I'm not saying that he's been sleepwalking through the season, but Sam Laporta. That for
Oh
me.
yeah,
For me,
absolutely. Like
that's the guy. Look, remember against us last year, that last drive and things he was doing. So hopefully, Sam Laporta doesn't wake up this week.
and I'm a big Sam Laporta fan. Like I loved him back in college. Like and we talked about like well, I remember
Sure.
we had a brief discussion about this back on Pick Six Sports, your show, and obviously we were doing the discussions about tight ends. Obviously, Sam Laporta seemingly that would have been a great pick at the time,
That's the guy
but
for me.
yeah, yeah. But it's so weird because I was talking to Mike, no Mike, but the guys from UK Cowboys fans on Thursday. We were talking about Sam Laporta because he seems to be like the forgotten man here. Because like even from fantasy football terms, he's not producing at all. Like I think he's only been targeted like 5 or 6 times per game, and he's only averaging like maybe like 40, 45 yards. So
Right.
it's weird. Like because normally he's right up there. They're talking about like 80 plus yards sometimes per game compared to his rookie season. But it seems to be that they've really cut back on it. They really are kind of distributing the ball quite a lot more. So it's definitely a lot more for like Mike Zimmer to really concentrate on, like rather than targeting certain players. They have to be really like open minded of like Goff is actually reading the plays because I don't know if you might recall, like I think ever since Jared Goff is now left the Rams, he's not got the hit. He's not constantly listening to Sean McVay telling him the plays, and 15 seconds later, it's all getting changed up or whatever. Not he's
Mhm.
actually reading the defenses now, and it's actually showing that.
Yeah, I mean the progression of the offense, right, for them up there, and understanding that, and then when you have the weapons like Williamson, who's coming on, he was dealing with some things last year, coming on. Well, sometimes the Sam Laporta maybe comes down a little bit, but it's a guy that you can't forget about,
No,
right? Because if you like, well, they're not really. If you decide if you're Zimmer and crew, well, we need to worry more about this. They're not really going to Laporta. You kind of go to sleep. All of a sudden, Laporta's beating you over the head for a couple of tutties, and you're like, oh, we didn't know. So yeah, man. I mean, but that's just about them in general, right? The two headed guys are running back, two outside receivers. It's a loaded team from an offensive weapon standpoint.
even with when you look at their offensive line, you've got
Sure.
Glasgow, etc. Like they've got a real like Penny Sewell,
Yeah.
like really good offensive line. So
Good
like
center. Hmm.
on paper, like they really do have a good team, and rightly so. So, and we said this even before going into the season. Detroit was going to be, if not one of the toughest games going into this season, because after what we experienced last year.
Yeah. The interesting point about them, and obviously, the game we had against them last year, they got a little bit of maybe extra sauce on the dog, if you will, coming in here, coming
Yeah,
back to what they consider to be a robbery per se. Um,
it's their own screw up.
we
Let's
have
be
times.
honest.
It's like we have problems with certain teams, right? No matter what Arizona is, we have problems with certain teams, and
Yeah.
in Detroit's case, right? Historically, just sometimes we just seem to be a problem for them no matter what, right? I think now it's 5 straight against them. No matter what's kind of going on, the Cowboys just seem to be a thorn in their side. So not very often are we the Arizona to somebody else's Arizona is to us, but this is a team. Historically, in recent history, we've kind of been the thorn in their side at times.
Well, I'll give you a wee stat. It's been 11 years since the Detroit Lions have actually put a win against the Dallas Cowboys. 11 years. 2013 it was.
Hmm.
So
That was Megatron doing Megatron things. 200. Yeah, it was. Oh my! Three guys on
yeah.
him. It didn't matter. He was catching it anyways. Oh my goodness. Oh,
He
that
he,
game.
he could have like if he was to I'll be honest, like if Megatron was to like with the dire situation, like they had the right quarterback at the time with Stafford. I thought they just didn't have the right necessarily tools around them. Like they didn't have the O
Right.
line, they didn't have the number 2 wide receiver. It was just Stafford and
And then they
Megatron.
got the running back, and then he got hurt all the time. Like they just couldn't quite put it all
Yeah,
together.
but they seemed to, like their front office, and all fair credit and all due respect, they've actually done well to actually
Sure.
bolster their roster. So, and they are
And got
effectively right
everybody
now.
paid too, right? I mean, this offseason,
Absolutely.
like they get to the championship game, you could argue they probably should have won the championship game against San Francisco, but neither here nor there. If it was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. But they understood where they are and said, "Hey, all right, let's take care of our guys now. Let's get ahead of it. Let's pay it." So it's a team to me. I'm right there with you that obviously they're moving forward in underneath the Dan Campbell regime, right? And now, okay, we feel like we have the right guys in place. Let's go and take care of them so we can kind of free ourselves up if we need to make any moves in the future. So from the front office standpoint, Paul, I'm right there with you. Look, they've identified who they want to draft. They've gotten
Yeah.
to a point of success they feel good about. Let's take care of these guys and let's open up that window, right? When you pay these guys early, right? Obviously, some of the draft things you can do
Yeah.
early. You kind of
I know.
open your window a little
I,
bit.
I don't know what you're talking about next.
Nothing's early around these parts.
Oh, yeah. Early for Scotland and the actual Texas terms, you're talking about next year.
Yeah. Hour before the game, let's go sign our quarterback. It's fine, on the road.
Oh God! I'll be honest. Like, I'm glad Dak's staying. I really am. And I'm glad CD Lamb's staying as well.
Mm.
It's just, why couldn't we get the deal done sooner? I can understand from a salary cap point of view, but there was when you're seeing all these rumors with Derek Henry, we could have signed him if we got these Daks. It's all hearsay. End of the day, But end of the day, we just need to kind of we've got what we've got. We need to move forward and how we're going to improve from there. That's it.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Like they do all these theatrics, and the Cowboys have their own time of doing stuff, right? We just kind of come to understand that. And I can remember. I hate to be that guy that said "I told you so," but you know what? I'm going to be the guy that told you so. Not you particularly, just Cowboys Nation in general. Back in the day, and before he got signed, I said Dak's going to get $40 million. Now he never cost $40 million against the cap, but the breakdown was $40 million a year.
Yeah.
Go dial up my tweet from June. From June, I said Dak's going to get $60 million. They told me I was crazy. I know I was talking about. I said, guys, you had to understand this. You had to understand this. They're not his group, right? His agent, everything. It doesn't matter what these other guys are getting paid right now. I was like, he can't be traded, and you can't stop him from walking out the door. They're negotiating on the numbers of next year, not what these guys are getting paid this year. And lo and behold, magically, all the theatrics that the front office does and all those things, well, CeeDee Lamb the highest, and that gets us $60 million. Shocked. Who knew?
I will say though, Nix, you have been the most consistent person as get Dak signed. It's day one to what was it, day 89 or something like that, 89 days straight. You were constantly saying that,
bro, 150. I think it'd be in 150 some odd days every day. I'm like, guys, what are we doing? Just signing. Because here's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because, and I understand, the fan base, the casual fans, stuff like that, they don't understand. But whenever the business of football is very different than the game of football, right? We
Absolutely.
both know that. And whenever they make business moves, it's not really highlighted. Like, for instance, right at the beginning of the new year, they literally converted a bonus into money for Dak. Well, that right there alone said, well, you just upped his money even more on the guaranteed side. So, yes, you did that in good faith that you're going to get the deal done because you wouldn't have touched that money the other way. I'm like, okay, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, this deal's getting done. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But, look, on their time, right? On the on their time, they choose to get the stuff done. And, of course, we both talked about this and agreed, Lamb was going to have to be done first because he's not in camp.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So that was rudimentary. The other side of that I think was frustrating for the fan base is that as soon as Jefferson signed his deal, there's the framework. It's over. This shouldn't take but a week at most. Too. Okay, Larry Allen passing, respectful. Okay. There was no reason still to not have this deal done by the time they got to camp because the numbers were the numbers and they were always going to be what they were. So
exactly, Chris. It's not as if from when Jefferson signed his deal, it wasn't exactly there was a cap difference between there to the end of camp. It remained the same, within the Dallas Cowboys. It's whoever we brought in, it wasn't really making massive deductions or increases to the cap. So it's why is it not still getting done?
So that's something to talk about. That's why,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's just too much enjoying being on the Jerry Jones luxury yacht. I have no idea. But end of the day, though, we've got it sorted. We are going to. So I'm really happy about that. Obviously, there has been obviously a mixture of performances. I wouldn't say it's now down to Dak and CeeDee Lamb in particular, but when you look at the season so far, obviously the Saints game and Baltimore game was just not enjoyable to watch. It was just a complete Mike Tyson uppercut to your face. Really, that's probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, it was just so indifferent, right? Like, because the Cowboys even got ran on two different ways in those two games, right? The Saints, the defense tackles was getting washed. It didn't matter. Like, I was looking at this thing, like, this doesn't happen on the NFL level. College level, you could see that, not the NFL level. And then they make some changes to get to, the Ravens. Okay, defense tackles are not getting washed. Oh, but now we can't tackle nobody. When, like, I think we ended up missing like 17 tackles or whatever. But it's hard for the offense to get going where everyone's frustrated because in the Saints game, offense is rolling early. Now, granted, but you're not getting touchdowns. You're getting field goals. And then what happens? Oh, Jalen Brooks slips. There's an interception. Oh, and guess what? The defense can't stop a nosebleed. It's another touchdown. And caddy bar the door. And then the Ravens game magically in the fourth quarter, like, hey, you know what? We are pretty good, and their defense kind of sucks in the secondary. Oh, let's just air it out, and then here we go.
I know it was like a completely whole different team in that fourth quarter. I was like,
woke up, I guess.
I'll tell you this story. Right? I was telling Mike about this where I was watching the game. I was out with my friend Paula. Right, funny enough. Don't laugh, Paul and Paula. Like I know, but anyway,
the Paula situation.
No. She's just she's never watched an NFL game before. Like she's right, and I was like, right, let's go to Walkabout. Yeah, so we went to a place called Walkabout in Glasgow. So it's like an Aussie style bar, and they were showing the game, and it was obviously we were playing the Ravens that game. No, wait, was it that one or was it the Saints? No, it was the Ravens game, sorry. And the week before, obviously, we played the Saints, and there was a couple of Saints fans. They were playing the game before the Cowboys, so I was in among Saints fans, having a little bit of banter with them. That. So when we came to the Ravens game, so I was sitting there. We ordered some food, ordered some beers and whatever, and we were watching. She was asking questions. So what does that mean? What does fourth and 3 mean? Try to get under the basics.
First time, yeah.
Right. The next thing, I'm getting uppercutted left, right, and center. Touchdown, Lamar Jackson. Touchdown, Derrick Henry. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I'm losing my mind. And my friend's like, she's like, what team's the Cowboys? Are they the ones in white? I was like, unfortunately, yes. Yeah. Right? So I ended up leaving right after halftime. By the time I got home, it was just going into the end of the third quarter. The next thing I know, all hell broke loose. I started messaging my friend saying, you're not going to believe what's just happened. She said, as we were leaving, it's like, do you imagine the Cowboys came back from this? I'm like, it's like, I love the optimism. I don't want to hear this. Yeah, I was genuinely, I love the optimism, Paul. I really do. But it's like I just don't see it happening. So as I got home, next thing, bang, touchdown, Turpin, boom. That is throwing darts left, right, and center.
Watermelon kick.
And I'm sending her screenshots of the bloody scoreline, and she's like, she's like. You know what I mean? So I was like, but it really does ask you the question: how could we not just perform that from start to finish?
The interesting part about though, in general, is but from that starting point forward, hey, they haven't lost a game yet, so maybe it was a wake up moment for them at the end of the day.
I think it was because ever since that fourth quarter, we have seen a different mindset, especially when it comes to the defensive line. You're seeing a bit more explosive from likes of Mazzie Smith. Prime example, he has gotten better since that fourth quarter against the Ravens, and he's not really put much. Like we all remember how terrible he played against the Saints, where he got thrown like a rag doll. He seems to manage to get over that curve and actually really fixing it. You're seeing that more pop out of his stance now, and same with Lindo Joseph. My goodness, he looked really impressive. I thought.
You know what was crazy is in the last game, Linval Joseph, PFF grade. People kind of take or leave PFF.
I know.
But he was the highest graded defensive tackle pass rush last week. I'm like, all right.
I know. Like, it's a love-hate relationship with PFF, to be honest.
It's always tongue-in-cheek with me with PFF. It really is. That's why, if you follow me on Twitter, you see I don't really quote and do a lot of PFF stuff. I mean, it's a tool. I understand the teams use it, and if you kind of understand the dichotomy, how they do certain things and break it down, okay. But yeah, there's other things I like more. But it's a football relative device to have a conversation. But yeah, I don't buy much into it either.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, I cannot get access to NFL Pro. I cannot get access to it. No, we're out of the country origin for it. So I can't exactly
Let me call
rewatch.
up Goodell on this. What are we doing?
I
I thought
know.
we were trying to expand the game. Wait. Isn't the NFL trying to expand to the world? We're in
It's supposed
Brazil.
to be.
We're
I
in
know.
London.
I
Why
was like,
isn't NFL Pro not? Oh wow! You know,
Chris.
get you a VPN. You'll be okay, sir.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about just get my VPN sorted,
Yeah.
and it's like right now we're never talking. Just I really want to kind of like break down, like especially my love for the trenches, O line and D line.
Mhm.
That's my love and passion because that's the positions I played back in here in the UK. But oh man, it can be frustrating sometimes because you really want to do more of an in-depth analysis, get your really like your thoughts and opinions, and be more accurate. But it's kind of hard, like from especially if you're outside the US, like and you're like, and this is the whole thing about the world team is we want to try and come in and like from all walks of life from all across the world who love the Dallas Cowboys, and that's what the whole point of this show is all about. And but hi man, it's but just to kind of go back to more general terms, how would you assess so far, just in general terms, how the Cowboys season has went so far? Like, what are you like so far? What you don't like? What can obviously we know what can be improved, but just give me your overall general assessment so far.
It might surprise people, but I think it's about par for the course what I expected. Sure, maybe the way the results kind of came a little different. The only thing that got me was we lost to the Saints.
Yeah,
Everything else, I'm pretty much this is kind of on par. I mean, look, and obviously we wouldn't be able to forecast the injuries and stuff like that, but I'm just talking about from general terms, right?
yeah,
Okay, the defense was going to take a little bit of time, and obviously we got a little bit of shot in the arm in the Cleveland game, like, oh, maybe it's ahead of schedule. But we found out pretty quickly it wasn't ahead of schedule. Which again, this is kind of what I expected. Offensively, the one thing I say I probably took for granted was I didn't expect them to go back in the shell so much. And I understand why with two rookie offensive linemen, but I didn't expect it to be so back in the shell early on throughout. But I knew there was going to be growing pains there with the offensive line. And the one thing I talked about, even going into the Giants game, was that I understood everybody's frustration with the run game. And I think the biggest problem was they were mishandling the committee because the tape showed, like, look, this offensive line isn't blocking as bad as people want to make it seem when it comes to the run game. They really
yeah.
wasn't. But I don't think they're handling the committee the proper way. And then we get to the Pittsburgh game. Oh, Deuce Vaughn is no longer active. He's a healthy scratch. And this is the Rico Dowdle show. And I'll still
And
disagree with not
Rico
using
Dowdle went
Zeke in
for
the
80
red zone.
yards in that game. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. And look, no one thought that he would go have that kind of game against that run defense because of how people
I think
the
were they
offensive
not like
blocking.
ranked like number one in terms of run defense from
I
last
think they
week?
were number 3, but top 5 for sure.
Oh
Right.
yeah, they're definitely top 5 for
But you
absolutely.
look at sometimes you don't know how the sausage is made, right? Here's the thing: if you put his stats up against Tony Pollard's right now, though, guess what? Tony Pollard's averaged 4 yards per carry. He's averaging 4.1. He has, I think Pollard might have. I think he has a little less carries, but he has a little more yardage. So I mean, they're right there, like they're like neck and neck. So if somebody told us before the season, here's Pollard's numbers, here's Rico's numbers, how do you feel about that? I think everybody would be like, oh, we're probably trending in the right direction. But you see how things happen or whatever. But we heard from McCarthy this week that what you saw in the Pittsburgh game moving forward is what you're going to see how they deploy that when it comes to the running back by committee and stuff. And I think that's a trend in the right direction. But overall, though, to be at 3-2, this is the part of the season. I was like, hey, back half of our schedule is kind of light for us, which has not been that way in a long time.
Yeah,
It's about these 4 games starting with Pittsburgh. These 4 to
and
5 games, right, is where we are and where we have to get to. You started off great. Okay, now you got to find a way. Because again, I think if you get through the Falcons game, and I think if the Cowboys land that, even at 4-4, I think you're to the playoffs then. And like I said, I didn't think this team was a 13, 14 win team. I've been very consistent. I think the floor is 10 wins. I think the ceiling is 12. Now, how they operate in the next 3 games now can lead you to maybe 11 or 12, or maybe more so back down to 10. But again, I think even with the injuries, I think they're a 10-win team. Now you got to take care of business now. We understand that. But I think, look, 3-2, I had them 4-2 at this point. So to me, it's kind of par for the course. A little surprising how the offense handled the running back by committee stuff, but I think everything else, and maybe a little bit in the shell because of the offense line, but I understood why. But everything else, though, I think it's about par for the course for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like obviously, it kind of feels like, well, my regardless, like we kind of knew that Rico Dowdle was going to be eventually be like classified as the number one. Like I remember Brian Broaddus way back last year saying that Dowdle is like, if he can stay healthy, he will likely be the successor to Tony Pollard.
And most
And
people at camp said Rico Dowdle was easily the best running back in camp. You know, the Kavanaughs of the world, stuff like people that was out at camp said he is the best back. So give him the carries.
I know, and you're gonna. I would say you're likely going to see more, like maybe an extra 5 carries per Rico Dowdle, and maybe a slight decrease depending on the situation. But here's the interesting part. I thought is like, since we've actually introduced Hunter Lupke to the equation, all right,
Tonka.
it's gonna really add more levels to what we can do with this offense. Like even in formation, when you even got like a pistol formation, for example, you've got like Dowdle and Luke in there. It's like you can do a lot in that formation. Like even when you've like even 12-man formation, like in terms of like where the tight ends are as well, you could do a lot of crazy things with that and really throw things apart. So, and that can open the doors for like Dowdle to like unsuspecting. But when you add Luke to the key, who is literally like a Swiss Army knife, that's exciting to see. And that's something I'm really thriving for to see more of, is how to get Luke involved, because I think that can really spread our offense to move along and keep defenses guessing.
Shout out to the 21 personnel, huh? But this is what I always talk about when it comes to Mike McCarthy. He'll give you keys. There's a lot of coach talk, right? I said, but he'll give you, if you
Sorry,
pay
21.
attention.
Sorry, 21 personnel. I didn't say 20.
You're good.
I said 12 there.
No. But technically, for them, they probably look. It's quoted as 21 personnel, but they look at it as 12 personnel, and I'll tell you why. Because again, Mike McCarthy, if you listen long enough throughout the process, he'll give you keys to the city. You just have to listen when you repeat stuff. And he talks about it from the OTAs through training camp that they had Lipke doing tight end stuff. And he also said 2-back stuff. Well, he's basically a H-back, but he can run it, he can catch it. So for them, when he's in the game, I'm willing to bet they view it as being 12 personnel. Now he has a little bit more wiggle and things he can do than a Schoonmaker per se, or even to an extent Ferguson, right? You're gonna hand the ball to Ferguson, right? But again, it'll be tiered as 21, but they look at it as 12 because of what he can do and how they've cross-trained him. And we've just kind of seen that, kind of evolve and happen there. But again, McCarthy talks about 2-back personnel. I said, well, 2-back, what are they talking about? So it's got to be Hunter. Then he talks about, oh, well, Hunter Lipke did a lot of tight end stuff. And for me, and I always went back to I was in February of that draft. I was banging and said, well, go get this guy. We're going to the West Coast. He needs that.
I remember. I remember, because I think even myself included, like, I think my last pick of every mock draft I did, I always got Hunter Lupke.
Yeah.
Like
every time.
That, it was a certainty.
And it's like, if you go look, and I told everyone, it's like, you ain't got to do all the tape. I already did all the work on that end. I said, just go to him on the road in Arizona and watch what he did in that game. That's all you need to know about him. And that transfers everywhere. And you saw him ramp him up last year until the fumble in Miami. And then that wasn't, I don't think that was all on his fault, all on his plate, but neither here nor there. Then they kind of dialed it back some. But now this year we're watching it ramp up and more again. And, look, he is a weapon, and it's hard to game plan for him and what he can bring to the table because he's multifaceted. We're seeing him even more so the past 2, maybe almost 3 weeks on third down passing situations. He's the guy who's doing the blocking, so a weapon, no matter what, whether he's the ball in his hands or he's doing some blocking or whatever. Hey, man, he's a good tool to have. He's not the John Kuhn, who they had up there in Green Bay with McCarthy.
Yeah,
he's not really Juravicious out there in San Francisco. I don't know. I know Dad calls him mini all-star. I don't know where you want to. I have a hard time about what
see that at all.
No, I don't either.
All-Star was basically a juggernaut who was basically a bodybuilder.
No, he just was juggernaut with the helmet on and everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was so difficult to bring him down. Like, if you watch his highlight reel, I would have hated to be a linebacker to try and stop him, man.
Can you imagine if you're a cornerback and all of a sudden, oh my God, I got to go tackle Michael All-Star? Oh no.
Oh no. Could you? Oh god, especially when you especially if you're maybe like a 195, 200-pound cornerback, and you have to drop down and try and make the
Yeah,
tackle and like Mike Allstott,
5'11",
you
198.
be
Good luck.
screwed. like, like again, we need to give credit non-Cowboys players their due and credit and stuff because Allstott for the Bucks was unbelievable.
Sure.
It really was. But when it comes to a Hunter Luepke, the one thing I like about him is his mobility about him.
Sure.
He can play for a guy his size, he's not like your typical full size full back over over muscular. He's just looks like a typical running back in a way, but he can still possess that threat, in terms
Sure.
of route running, running
good
pass
hands,
protecting,
good contact balance.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't hurt me. And I said this even before going into the Giants game. I was like, I like tandems over committee. And we don't really have a true to life third down back, right? In the traditional sense. Give me a tandem. And I said, look, give me Rico. And I don't care. Pick one or the other, either Zeke or Lipke, and do a tandem.
The split formation. You've got quarterback, running back, side by side. Because there's so many design plays, and I don't want to sound like I'm turning into what's his face, our former OC who's now Kellen Moore. I don't want to sound like him. You've got running backs crossing over to really cause confusion. That'd just be pure college football fantasy essentially, but you know what I mean, because you can have two running backs, one can actually fake to the left and the other one would actually overseer to the right. You can do interesting things that would make linebackers really follow the man, and it would just cause absolute confusion within the defense. You could do stuff like that. But another name I do want to mention though is John Stevens, even though it was a somewhat quiet game. But when you really think about it, even though he's not known for his catching ability,
John Stevens, Spawn Ford.
Sorry, Spanford. Sorry,
yeah, You're right. I'm with you, brother.
Don't know why I said that. Thank you.
Because everybody John Stevens Jr. on the field. That's why you're good.
Yeah, that's Spanford. Yeah, that's so obviously he's not known as a pure pass catcher. But this is where I'm kind of thinking with this. We did get to see that just for a brief moment. And obviously, Jake Ferguson is Mr. go-to when it comes to that. When things kind of don't open up for a CD Lamb, he's your reliable guy to throw to. If you've got 12-man personnel where you have two tight ends there, right? And if Ferguson is actually taking two guys away from the equation, a linebacker and maybe a corner, that kind of opens up the door for of John Stevens to get those maybe short yards in the middle of the field. Forward. That's definitely going to be the actual clip for this YouTube video. I'm telling you,
it's all good. But here's what they did though, right? So I know this is going to be crazy. Everyone you need to be more creative. Well, they're creative out of the gate because you don't really throw the ball to him that much. So you come right out of the gate. You use motion for leverage. You design something where he does not have to run a precise route or anything. You use motion for leverage, throwing the ball. Guess what, defense? You got to think about him because we just threw him the rock. Oh, we use him in motion. So now the next time he goes in motion, now you have to pay attention, but now we can get to something else on the other side. So, again, the game within the game, right? But, game within the game there. And, look, I talked about this going into the silver lining of Brandon Cooks being now. And I'm like, look, I hate that Brandon Cooks is out. I don't wish injury, nothing. I said, but here's the thing. What they're asking him to run, Tolbert is younger and bigger. He can run that better. I said, but what it opens up is they'll use Tolbert more. I said, now here's the thing that's maddening about this. Whenever they run or they bring Tolbert in and he runs routes, they do things that are conducive to his skill set. They don't always do that with Brandon Cooks. So we saw the orbit routes and we saw the different things they were doing, right? And we just don't get that, unfortunately, with Cooks, because if you did that with Cooks, that would work well too. But there was the silver lining that I hope this would open this thing up. So there's a chance here, even though we're going against this defense on the road, that they could open this thing up a little bit more. And lo and behold, they did. So I'm glad they were in the spaces listening because I'm taking all the credit.
Honestly, Jay, we had Jay Tuck on the show last week, and he was that was his bold prediction was but Jalen Tolbert was going to have himself a stellar of a game. It wasn't so much getting the winning touchdown, but he had him down for 2 touchdowns and X amount of yards and stuff like that. And I was like, that's a really good bet, because when you do think about it, with and again, I'm gutted for Cooks. Obviously, I want it to come back healthy. Because I think, obviously, end of training camp there, obviously, Cooks kind of got minorly injured. So I wonder if that might have a hindrance of how he's playing right now. We don't know. But the fact is, he's taking time off to fully recover. So hopefully, when he comes back, we actually might have that full trio of wide receivers now.
Right.
Now,
And Tobert's shown, like, Tobert had a really good camp as well.
Yeah.
And then if we kind of go through the season, remember, he had the 6 catches for 82 yards and a great, fantastic catch, I know, in a losing effort. So he had shown flashes that he was ready, but you got to have your opportunity, right? And that's the thing about the NFL. Whenever the opportunity comes knocking, no matter if it's an injury or you get a play call
Next man
for
up.
you,
Next man up.
have to walk through the door. And not only him, right? We saw Wheat, get his opportunity. You saw how he played,
yeah, definitely.
So, when you get your opportunity, you just have to walk through the door. And I thought Tobert was ready. So what Tobert did in Pittsburgh doesn't surprise me because I think the trends were there through camp, through the season when he was getting things called his way. I know they're going to look at, he didn't come back for the ball in one play, yada, yada. Fine. Everybody makes a mistake. But overall, you'd seen him trending, being ready for this moment, more so than his rookie or second year.
Yeah, definitely. And you've just kind of led me into what I'm about to do for the next segment. But before we do go into the next segment, I'm going to give a wee shout out to our sponsors. So we'll be back with you.
Brother.
Yep, got to pay those bills, but we'll be back with you in a wee moment.
The World's Team Podcast is brought to you by Cowboys Experience. The ultimate Cowboys experience with stadium tours, meet and greets, tailgating, game tickets, and much more. For more information, please go to www.cowboysexperience.com.
Yes, folks, be sure to go and check out cowboysexperience.com. Use the discount code WorldsTeam2024. So you kind of mentioned the word defense there and Tyrus Wheat there. If there's one thing I'm a wee bit nervous about is, and in fact, what I'll do is I'll mention the injury report, which will kind of feed into what I'm about to mention about the next segment. So obviously we've got D-Law, who's out. Parsons is obviously out.
I don't know if we're going to see him back till the playoffs, maybe, that D-Law situation.
Yep. Obviously, Marshawn Nealand, he's going to...
At least a month.
Yep, and obviously Sam Williams. So you've got our 4 main starters in terms of our pass rush is actually out. In comes Carl Lawson. In comes Tyrus Wheat. So it's going to be a very interesting game against these Detroit Lions against a really good, strong offensive line. So I think my question is to you, how are we going to do against these Lions offensive line when we know, is this going to be more pressure on likes of Joseph and Mazi Smith and Osa Digizua to really kind of help try to ease the pressure from the end wise?
Sure. And, and just to add in there on the defensive end side, right? Chauncey Golston, and we're probably going to see KJ Henry this week as well. So that's your platoon of DNs. See, it gets dicey in that stretch because also with the injury report, right? Kendricks is not going to play.
Yeah.
So that's another guy who can give you some pressure, right? You can send him in that AA mug blitz, help you out, stuff. Well, now you're going to be missing. The good news is, though, Jared Goff, not the so you kind of know where he's going to be standing at. Can you get him off that mark, right? And this could be more so not about getting him to the ground, but can we get him off his mark and speed his clock up a little bit? I'm with you. Yep. Hey, Odigizua, I might need a little something from you this week, Odigizua, a little extra sauce there.
Okay.
Coming up and doing some things, and he has it in the bag. This is a game. This is why you brought a Carl Lawson in, though. Carl Lawson, veteran. You know what he brings to the table, and this is a game here that hey, big fella, we've got you trained up long enough. Hey, we need you this week. For me, when we talk about the pressure, I'm looking now. Zimmer can dial up some stuff. Maybe we get a little slot blitz this week, right? We haven't really seen a lot of that. Maybe we see a little nickel blitz. But if we're talking about just the line, I'm looking for Osa and I'm looking for Carl Lawson to walk through that door for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Just to kind of outline the full injury report. So as it stands, so Marquise Bell was full practice on Friday. He is expected to play. DeLone Brand did not practice on Friday. He is questionable for the game status, as is Kalen Carson, but even though he had full practice all week this week, which is quite a weird one. Trevon Diggs, full practice. He's all good. Tyler Guyton is all full practice. He's good to go. Malik Hooker, he's good to go. The biggest one, obviously, is Eric Kendricks. But with that, I'm really interested to see how Maris Lauerford does in this one.
The question is, will they put him at the mic? Or do they have Overshawn
Yeah.
at the mic? Because we saw Overshawn at the mic 1 week. It wasn't great. And then they got him up off the mic. So is it going to be Leofeld? Because, right, he was kind of drafted to eventually be the mic. Will he be the mic? But that also means Nick Vigil, I think he's questionable as well. Is that right, the linebacker?
Yes. Nick Vigil is questionable. Obviously, Micah Parsons out. And finally, Zach Martin is good to go. He had full practice, and he is good to go.
That brings back Damone Clark. Other things, right, when we talk about this defense, you watched Damone Clark snaps significantly reduced to 0, and now you're asking him to come back. How is he ready for it? What does Zimmer have planned for him? That's a guy here who's obviously, due to the injuries, is going to get probably some snaps this week. I like Leofeld. Look, if we're deploying him, I like Leofeld in the middle. That's where I'm at.
I totally agree.
We'll see if that's where they go.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Leofeld in the middle, Overshawn weak side, and then everybody else.
Yes, sorry, you were just kind of cutting out a little bit there. I don't know if it's just the reception there.
Yeah, people are messaging me. It's stupid. Yeah, I got people messaging me. It's stupid.
What can we say? You're very popular, my friend. What can we say?
Oh Lord. Stop it.
I mean, but let's be honest. Like, remember the last time when we first met back in person? We ended up. It was fun enough. It's the game that I'm going to again this time is against the Houston Texans. That's the last time we met. Last time we played at AT&T, we hammered down those Boomer Jack margaritas like nobody's business. Next thing I know is like
they were doing the work.
We both completely disappeared by midnight. But I cannot wait to reunite that again, man. I cannot wait. But I forgot what I was going to say there now.
Linebackers.
Maris Lauerford. If there's one thing I like about Lauerford, right, he is the pure study of the game. Like, he's not like Sean Lee. I'm not saying he is or anything like that, but his approach to football is when you look at him, he tries to read defenses very like in a way what Sean Lee does. Like, and from what we've heard from like Mike Zimmer way back when we brought him into the Star in Frisco from the day one, he's always asking questions, always like wanting to watch game film and stuff like that. I was like, oh, okay, that's a really good thing. But the one thing I do like about Matt Lauerford is the fact that it's his ability to drop back when necessary. Like, he's not like your typical linebacker that likes to blitz all the time. He likes to actually read the play. If it's going to be a passing play, he will drop back and actually observe what needs to be, like, what seems to be the biggest threat.
No, yeah, I mean, I remember Zimmer on the call. He said, when you told me what everybody else was doing on the defense, it was a lock. I understand not just your position, but every single person's on that defensive play call. You knew what they were doing, and he plays with his hair on fire. All right, shout out to my guy Eddie O, who always talked about that through the draft process. He just plays with his hair on fire. So we kind of understood, right? Me and you kind of had the conversation that when they took him in the 3rd round, we knew Kendricks was here. Now the long hair be damned and everything else, but we kind of understood like, hey, this is the guy that's going to end up being your eventual Mike, right? And we'll see how much they'll use him this year. But we knew, all right, here's the bridge gap, and here's the guy that's going to be your guy moving forward. And now, in our week 6, hey fella, it's time.
Yeah, no, Chris, when you really think about it, when we brought in Kendricks, right, I was like, okay, that's actually a really smart move. Get someone that's very familiar with Mike Zimmer's defense as a whole. And we're seeing that already with like Sir Kendricks already. And when you actually include like Sir Lauerford, that'd be a great understudy for like Sir Kendricks. Like, because Kendricks is that type of, I can see Kendricks being that guy. It's like, this is what Coach Zimmer wants us to do. This is the way how he does things. And the quicker you kind of learn this, the more you're going to like progress and actually do things right when it comes to the scheme. And we're actually seeing it. You saw a great play from Lauerford against the Steelers just last week there. Like, so we are seeing it in small doses, getting better and better. I mean, you mentioned like Overshawn. My goodness, like some games he's absolutely stood out. But I totally agree with you. I don't think am I correct in saying him being the Mike is not probably the best option? You would rather prefer to have Larafut as the Mike? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at because I think he's just built for it. And we've got to see Overshown do a little mic work. I just hope that's who he is, right? So I hope it's Maurice Leofau there and he's flanked. It'll be interesting to see how much we're in, the 4-2-6, right? The nickel or versus base defense with 3 linebackers as well, too.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I'm just going to read over like some of the statistics just now when it comes to the Lions and Cowboys game right now. So as of right now, in terms of predictions right now, the Lions are almost 60% favorites to win this game, according to ESPN Analytics. As of right now, Jared Goff is 88 out of 124 with 1,015 yards with 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, where Dak Prescott is 125 out of 191 with 1,424 yards with 8 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Jahmyr Gibbs, 54 carries, 285 yards and 3 touchdowns. Rico Dowdle, 54 carries as well, 221 yards. No rushing touchdowns, but he's got some passing touchdowns, which is kind of very interesting to see here.
Sure.
Then this is the surprise for me. Obviously, we're all taught like Lions fans are very raving about St. Brown, but it's Williams is actually the leading receiver right now for the Lions right now. And this is what we were kind of talking about early on.
Sure.
Like he's 13 receptions, 289 yards with 2 touchdowns. And obviously we all know about CeeDee Lamb, 25 receptions, 378 yards with 2 touchdowns. So, but in terms of the Lions injury report, as far as I know, I don't actually have the data in front of me right now, but I
think they're pretty healthy across the board, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing much, to be honest. I know about Christian Mahogany? Christian Mahogany, the guard.
Right.
I think he's an NFI reserve essentially. So, and he's expected to return like in a couple of weeks. But other than that, obviously we know a few players that kind of picked up injuries early on, but they're not expected to return. But in terms of the actual whole main roster, in terms of the wide receiver core, the rest of their O-line, their defense, it's they seem to be fairly intact. But break it down for me though, Nix. What are you most concerned about the Detroit Lions?
Everything. I kid. I think ultimately, right? I mean, look, the Cowboys to the Cowboys. You know what they have to do first and foremost? Stop the run, right? And I mean, you have to get there. Look, I get it. This isn't the same quarterback that we played the past 2 weeks. They make them beat you with your arm because of the weapons and things that they're able to do. But again, if you're not able to stop the run with Gibbs and Montgomery, it can be a very long day for the Cowboys. So I think that's number one for them to go get this dub defensively. You got to be able to stop the run. And then step 2 is obviously how can you generate pass rush? I think those are the top 2 things for the Cowboys defensively to go out here and get it done.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. If we can apply the pressure to Jared Goff, really put in that uncomfortable situations where he needs to be erratic where it comes to throwing the ball, I think that's our best opportunity because we saw that when it came to when they played the Bucks. We did get to see that. But obviously, when you look at this interesting statistics where it comes to Jared Goff against his former team, the Cardinals and Seahawks, he was very efficient with his passing, and he wasn't really getting pressured as much. And he's only been sacked, I believe. Let me just get the statistic for you right now.
Sure.
I believe he's only been sacked. Where does it say? Yeah, he's only been sacked 7 times. It's a lot. It's a lot for after 4 games, but on average, getting sacked twice. He didn't get sacked in the loss against Tampa Bay, however, which is kind of odd.
Shocking, right?
Yeah, so it's a weird one. But looking at stats, he was 18 for 18 against the Seahawks. He was 18 for 23 against Arizona and 18 for 28 against the Rams. But interesting, he was 34 for 55. Obviously, pressures on the back to try and win the game. They had to resolve more back to passing, but that's like more than double what he was normally doing. They had to obviously ditch the run because it wasn't
Right.
working. But that kind of goes back to your point. If we can stop the run and force Jared Goff to do more than 20 attempts in passing,
Right.
I think that's where we can actually get to him because he's applying more pressure to himself. He's not having to be that like concise quarterback, just throw the wee dinks and dunks and that's it.
And look, if we look at how we lost, right? The run games got off, and the quarterbacks that we played against threw the ball less than 20 times, right? I think it was 16 and 15 maybe for the like 31 combined for Lamar and Derek Carr.
That's right.
So, so yeah, I mean, the key proof's in the pudding there. If we're not able to stop the run, they're able to get their run game off, right? We kind of understand what they're trying to do, and that puts the Cowboys in a hazardous situation because that means they're getting off in the run game, and you don't let Goff maybe have to do more than he needs to do, so on and so forth. So yeah, man, the number one attack is stop the run, and number two attack is how can we apply some pressure.
Absolutely. And in terms of our offense, how do we see our keys to victory in this one?
Right. We need Rico to do what Rico did last week, right? We need this
Yep.
offensive run game. You know, we're talking about controlling the line of scrimmage here, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't care how this game changes, controlling the line of scrimmage, typically you're going to win. But yeah, we need the same output from the run game. And then, you know, look, man, this is why you have the $60 million man. And no matter what's going on in the game, he finds a way to get you in the right position, as Tom Brady talks about even, and go pull that trigger and win the game when it needs to be done. And look, remember the big play, right? He was almost a safety, gets out of there. He hits Lamb for 90-plus yards for a touchdown in the Lions game last year. Hey, man, just need Dak to be Dak. As long as that run game can be adequate enough, I think you need Dak to be Dak. And if we're talking about their defense in general, secondaries have the secondary is something you can get after on them, right? Now their front seven much better than their back half. But yeah, the secondary can be had, in my opinion.
Yeah, like guys to watch out for example, it would be is it Jack Campbell, the
Oh yeah, Jack Campbell linebacker, sure.
Yeah, like that's one guy you definitely need to watch out for sure. Like I totally agree. Like I think if we can have that type of balanced offense rather than having to it's kind of same situation when it comes to the Lions.
Sure.
It's like what we want to do to the Lions, we don't want that happening to us. We don't want to like ditch the run. Like if we can try and get success in the run game to take the weight off Dak, then Dak could feel more comfortable to actually distribute the ball out.
And Paul, here we are again. Week 1, don't let Myles Garrett wreck the game. All right, cool. Week 3, maybe not so much week 2. Week 3, hey, don't let that guy in the middle wreck the game. Game 4, don't let Brian Burns wreck the game. Game 5, don't let TJ Watt wreck the game. Game 6, do not let Aiden Hutchinson wreck the game. But it was how we always this one guy on that other side, man, that we faced the first 6 weeks of like, dear God, don't let him, or Dexter Lawrence even in the New York game as well. But dear God, don't let this guy wreck the game because they have a game wrecker.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, in fact, funny that you mentioned about Dexter Lawrence there. Like, I do need to give I thought like Cooper BB had a really great game against like putting up against like an all pro like Dexter Lawrence. So
they had a great plan. 80% of the time they put 4 hands on him. And you know, that's what you have to do. And I will say this, no matter how people feel about the offensive line in general for the blocking or whatever, run game and whatnot, maybe getting beat on some pass plays, they had a plan for Myles Garrett. Like TJ Watt didn't wreck the game. Like they've done a good job of at least identifying one guy and saying, okay, we're not going to let you beat us, right? We might lose, but you're not going to be the reason why. They have at least done that thus far, whether we've won or lost, though, I feel like.
Yeah. And I don't know, like obviously, like there was a post on I think was it ESPN. Ryan Clark posted earlier, like talking about. I know. It's like he's saying the difference between the Cowboys right now, they have gotten better, is because Micah Parsons is not in the squad. Essentially, I'm like, I can see what he's trying to say, but I don't agree with it because Parsons does bring a whole different element to the defense. I mean, if there's one thing I don't like about Parsons is the fact that he does like the free ball in terms of his position, like being from a 5 tech and just decide to start around into being like a right behind Osa, for example, like stuff like that. And it kind of leaves us a little bit vulnerable from time to time. But when Parsons is set on the edge and does what he does, he's fantastic. So when Parsons comes back and the way how our defense is finally clicking to a certain degree, taking those baby steps, and it's like what J Tuck was saying last week. It's like we're in the lion's den as of right now. If we can get through this lion's den of our schedule right now, like through the Lions, through San Francisco, through the Eagles, through even the Falcons right now, and we get all these players coming back, all battle hardened, it's going to set us up really nicely. If we do get to the playoffs, it puts us in a really good position because we've went through the bumps and bruises. We know how to get what works and what doesn't, and yeah, pretty much that.
Well, here's the thing, and this is why, obviously at 6:00 Texas time, well, I know this is being later, but I have the space a little bit later to do the pregame preview. But here's where I took, and I like Clark, and I do think he does a lot of good work for sure. Let me be very clear there. But I thought it was a very casual take from him because, real quick, when did Micah Parsons leave the Giants game? When did he get hurt?
Was it not late on the game? Or
Very
early?
late, fourth quarter. Yeah, no, he late, fourth quarter, right? Real quick, how many yards did they rush for?
Not a lot.
1.1 yard per carry. They had like 26 yards, 23 carries, 26 yards. So this run defense didn't magically get better as he was saying once Michael left, because he's only been gone the Pittsburgh game. That's it, along with D-Law while we're at it, right? They both played into the fourth quarter. And it wasn't like when, so they wasn't gashing us in the run, and then they went out in the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden, oh my God, the run stopped happening for the Giants. So, see, to me, that's why I'm like, it's a casual take.
Yeah.
It's throwing a little chum in the water because, once again, Micah then played the entire game. They didn't run the ball well. Okay, the Pittsburgh game. Well, let's be very clear. I talked about this before the Pittsburgh game. The injuries suck, and I don't campaign for injuries for any teams. I said the one silver line for us, though, going into that game was simply this. We have injuries on the defensive line. Well, guess what? They had some injuries on the offensive line. That's the one. Number two, most of the Steelers fans will tell you that Warren and Patterson are better running backs for them than Najee Harris. Guess what? They were missing both of those guys. They had Shampklin active. We know him because we brought him in his rookie year during camp and all that stuff. So they didn't have the adequate weaponry at running back either. Not to take away from what our guys did and how they attacked it and what they did, but I'm just attacking. I won't say attacking. I'm just trying to give context to the Ryan Clark take is where I'm at, because he said the Cowboys run defense has been night and day basically since Parsons went out. But I'm like, no. He played the entire Giants game basically. He didn't get hurt till the very tail end. He missed the Steelers game. That's it. But there's still in the Steelers game why the Cowboys probably did pretty well there. So again, look, we kind of understand there are certain contemporaries and fans within the world's team that have a particular set of ideas about Micah and trading him or whatever. And for me, I felt like it was valuable to add the context to that, because that's not really what's happened thus far with the run defense and Micah being on or off the field.
Yeah, I think if there's one way I could summarize what Ryan Clark was trying to do, clickbait. Simple. That's all it is. It really is.
I mean, Greeny said if they're sitting there Monday and they're shocked because the Cowboys won the game, so on and so forth. So, I mean, it's ESPN. We know the drill.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like we're used to it now. Everyone's against us and not with us. That's it, pretty much. Yeah. And that's why we're so popular, because everyone hates us.
For sure.
But yeah, so now to the fun part, my friend. Now to the fun part. Right.
All right, what we got?
Right, so I've got Mike, who obviously is not here this week. He does his own little segment on the show called Would You Rather. All right.
Okay.
So my little Would You Rather for my special guest, yourself, is: would you rather have Ezekiel Elliott to come back and have an absolute belter of a game to really reignite things, or would you like to continue to see the likes of Hunter Luepke to actually elevate and grow?
It's a young man's game. I need to see Hunter elevate and grow.
Yeah, I am with you in that one, because you need to think a bit more of the team rather than the individual. Like, don't get me wrong, I would be thrilled for Zeke to get those 9,000 yards essentially, because I think
Sure.
he's almost there
Pretty
now.
close. He's pretty
Yeah.
close.
So I mean, that's a great achievement for any running back in their
Sure.
career, regardless. But
I just want to see Zeke used in the proper way. Like when we're in the goal line and the game's on the line,
and he knows that
put Zeke
himself.
and put Zeke in. Don't have Rico Dowdle diving over and fumbling the ball. Right, short
Yeah.
yardage, goal line. That's what you brought him back for. That's what he was good when he was here last. Let's make sure we use him there. But as far as what's best for the team, young man's game, I need Hunter Luke's role to grow.
Yeah, and I suppose I guess that I have a kind of follow-up question because I can't remember. I think it was Kyle Yazzie, you know, that does Tony Romo on Instagram and YouTube.
Mhm.
Like, he made a really interesting point. Like, and I thought in a way I agree, but it kind of makes it sound a little bit predictable. Like, Rico Dowdle will be your number one. Yep, that's true. Zeke will be your pass protected short yardage guy, correct? And like, so Luke K would be your utility guy. It's like, yeah, that's absolutely true. But in hindsight, it does kind of feel a little bit predictable. It's like, how can we actually make it not predictable? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we've already seen from a pass pro standpoint that Hunter's kind of diving into that. And look, I think everyone's had an opportunity. We go back to the Giants game, right? The touchdown pass to Lamb. Who was the guy
Yeah.
that picked up the blitz? It was Little B Deuce Vaughn, Mighty Mouse, and did his thing. So I think pass pro is one thing. No matter who's back there, do your job.
Yeah.
But look, when you're in short yardage situations, come on, man. Look, be predictable. It's Zeke. I mean, I just think that's a predictability. It just is what it is. You know what he brings to the table. So again, short yardage, whatever he's coming in. But see, here's how you become unpredictable. Have you been there while everybody's focused on that? Well, then you hit a play action naked boot, or you hit a end around. You know, you do something out of the norm because everybody's focused. So to me, to break up the monotony of it maybe being very predictable is in your play calling and being varied and playing off of that, I think is what it boils down to. Obviously put them in those situations depending on the situation, if you will, where you're on the field, down in distance and stuff. But then it's up to the play caller to not tip the pitch, right, and make sure you're giving them different looks. So you can't just give them the fastball all the time. Sometimes you got to give them the changeup, right? Sometimes you got to give them the curve, right, and those things. So it's not about the implementation of the play. It's about the play calls coming out when the player's in there in those particular moments.
Yeah, I find that probably one of the best examples we saw in terms of how to mix it up per se. It was the Tampa Bay game a couple of years back. I think it was the playoff game where it was we were in the red zone, and by looking at the formation, it was going to be an inside run to I think it was Tony Pollard at the time, and basically it was run play. Basically, Dak just bootlegged it and actually ran it in for the touchdown. That's the kind of surprise element. That's the unpredictable, and I think that's what we need to do. It's like we're telling you what a formation is, but that's not what we're going to do here. Essentially, like that's because, and again, it kind of goes back to like how we've been utilizing, like said, Lupke, how we've actually brought in Spanford, not John Stevens.
Got it, nailed it. Too professional over there.
I got it. Oh, but yeah, man. But to our bold predictions, my friends, what would your bold prediction for this game against the Detroit Lions?
How bold do I want to go? Let me go with. How about 2 Turpin touchdowns?
Oh,
How about a punt return and a touchdown catch? 2 touchdowns for Turpin.
I like that. So a punt return. That's an interesting one because, funny enough, like again, I was talking about this on the UK Cowboys fans. It's like we've got the new kickoff rule, all cool and that, but the same rules still kind of apply to the punt. It's so hard to really you can't really change the punt based on how the situation and how the game works. So it's still it's just as dangerous as the old kickoff rule. It's just as dangerous, like in terms of like when we think about player health and safety and stuff like that. But yeah, punt return, Turpin, I really like that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not kick return. I'm specifically saying punt return. Although he could take one back on the kick, but I'm going punt return and a touchdown catch return.
No, I love the fact you're being very specific on this one because that's what I like to do as well. So for this game, I'm going to go on the bold prediction for our Dallas Cowboys defense. I'm going to go with Maris Lauerfu on this one. I think he's going to have a couple. He's going to have 1 pick and 2 sacks in this game.
Oh, I like it. Oh, I like it. Bring it on. Bring it
Like
on.
if he's there as the mic,
Yeah.
like if he's dropping back the covers and making those reads, hopefully the job like what Micah Parsons did against Cleveland,
Sure.
like hit the pan in the hall of Deshaun Watson and
Yeah,
like
boom. Comes down with it.
came to Kendricks.
Yeah.
If I can see some of that,
Yeah.
I'll be a happy man in that
Me and you
regard.
both, brother.
Yeah. All right. The final part of the show, my friend.
All right.
Final score. What do you have, my friend?
Ooh. I think this is going to be a little bit of a shootout. I think this might be a little bit more high scoring than we've seen the past couple of weeks from the Cowboys. And the lines bring that to the table as well, too. Give me the Cowboys.
Ooh.
Give me the Cowboys. 31-27.
All right, so I'm not far away from you, but I've kind of went like not high scoring, but I've went mid range in terms of my score line.
Sure.
I've went Cowboys 24, Lions 20. So
Okay.
we're still on a 4-point split.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's a little bit more scoring this week because we've seen the offenses kind of wake up last week a little bit, right? We kind of saw the offenses wake up. Look, Thursday Night Football, we saw, 40 something, 26, right? I think the offense is starting to wake up a little bit. We know what can happen here between these two. So that's why I was like, maybe a little bit more high scoring here. So, but hey, look, I'll take the 24-20. You know what? I'll take 6-0. I'll take 3-0. I'll take a safety to nothing, okay? I'll take 2-0. Just find the dub.
Listen, I'll like, and speaking about Brandon Aubrey, I would love him more for him to actually even my biggest bold prediction. Sorry, I had to mention this, is I think he will some point break the NFL record for the longest field goal. I really do.
They should let him swing from 70 up there in Cleveland.
Can you imagine if that happened and he made that? Holy crap. Oh, man. And speaking about like Aubrey, he's got a new T-shirt just came out from the Cowboys Pro Shop. It looks fire. It looks fire. I need to get one.
See, they also dropped a new T-shirt of the touchdown catch from Tolbert.
No, did they?
Yeah. Go take a look. Yeah.
Oh, man, that was quite jeez.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I need. Oh man, for 4 weeks from now, I cannot wait to go and buy myself some new merch. There we go.
Indeed, always a fun time.
It's either I always come back with at least half a dozen new snapbacks every time I come back from Dallas.
When you show up, you got to bring the wallet and be ready.
Honestly, in fact, this would be very alien for you to see me with a hat on.
Also very true. Well, I don't know. I think during some of those shots over at Boomer Jacks, the hat might have came off for a second, but neither here nor there.
I don't even remember much after it, to be honest. But honestly, dude, thank you so much for coming on, man. And I will definitely be swinging by onto your space later on, my friend. But before we do finish up next, please tell everyone where everyone can find you and how everyone can tune into Pick Six Sports as well.
No, absolutely. I'm mainstay. I'm on Twitter, X, whatever y'all want to call it these days. I don't know. I still call it Twitter. Sometimes I call it X. I don't know what we're supposed to call it. Elon's platform. Okay, I'm over there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's your_guy_Nix NIX. Go over there, follow me. We have a fun time over there with spaces. We do pregame, we do post game. We run spaces during the week. We throw the mic to you. Come up here, have a conversation. I got a great guest coming on each and every Friday. No matter who we're playing, we bring somebody from the other side, so we're able to have as a round table, talk about where they're at, where we're at. We open it up for questions, the whole nine. So we have a real good time. It's a great format over there. But yeah, your guy Nix _ in between. Catch me on that side. I mean, a really quick salute to Cowboys Nation, and maybe some that are haters as well too. Man, broke the 9,000 follower mark, so I appreciate everybody rocking with your guy. It's been a fun ride here into my left to NFL coverage. This is my 6th season now doing Cowboys coverage. Amazing enough. And then, of course, hey, if you do the YouTube thing, we've been a little dormant on the YouTube. That's going to be firing up here soon. Pick 6 Sports, and that's the number 6. Pick 6 Sports on YouTube. Follow us over there. We do great draft content on long during the season as well. And like I said, we've been a little bit dormant. Some live things have been happening on the back channels, but we'll be ready to crank that up here just in time, I bet, for that Niners game. What better time to come back into the fold after the bye week, refreshed for the Niners game and see what the Cowboys can do out there in Santa Clara. But, brother, I always appreciate it. Like I say, this is always anyone else. This is my home away from home, man. Anytime you need me, throw up the Nick signal. I'm here, and it's always a fun time rocking with my guys across the pond.
Oh, absolutely, man. And not just that, man. Like, obviously, like Cowboys Nation all across the world will get to, like, obviously they've tuned in to your spaces. They actually know about Pick 6 Sports as well. I've got my friends from Big D Deutschland, Cowboys Nation Germany, and True Blue Italia. They do listen into you as well, so they all fully aware of you. And just a big shout out to those guys as well, from our European friends of Cowboys fan clubs across Europe.
Yeah, shout out to my guy Frankie out there in Germany as well too, man.
Oh, Frankie Mueller.
Yeah, my guy Frankie.
Oh, I love Frankie.
He's great.
I need to get Frankie on here. I really do. Mm-hmm. Like, just I need to tell you the story how I first met Frankie. Right, it was at the Texas Live, right. I saw Mike Tagg and I saw Kelly K9, right? I was like, hey, guys, what's happening? Right? And next thing, obviously, I'm wearing my big cowboy hat. I didn't wear my kilt to that game, fun enough. I didn't wear my kilt. So, but Frankie heard my voice and he's like, I genuinely thought he was actually American at first until it was, no, I'm from Germany. I'm like, huh? It's like he actually, like, because he really kind of like made it really sound quite natural. And it's like when he started talking German, it's like, oh crap,
okay, solidified, done.
But we had a great time. We ended up having a couple of drinks and we were just chatting away and stuff like that. And I believe he's going to be at the Texans game as well. I believe. Oh, awesome. If so, it's going to be a big freaking party, and I cannot wait, dude. I cannot wait, especially against those dirty Texans. Absolutely. Well, folks, thank you for coming along to this week's show. Mike will be back next week. We'll try and get some more special guests on here in the World's Team. Obviously, next week will be the bye week. Yes,
sir. Bye week after the Lions.
Yep. So it'll be the bye week, and we'll try and do 2 shows next week. Try and get some more guests. Try and bring some of the fan groups from Germany. I'm trying to reach out to some of our friends in the Japanese Cowboys right now if they're willing to come on. But obviously, with the time difference, it's extremely difficult. That's the problem. So we'll keep you in tune for that, though, folks. But like I said, it's not just America's team; it is the world's team,
baby.
It's the World's Team, baby. And we'll see you guys next time.
You've been listening to the World's Team Podcast. There's no other team like it in the world. Nothing more electrifying than the Dallas Cowboys. And we're here to prove it. We bring in fan groups from Germany, France, Brazil, the UK, Canada, Japan. We're everywhere, baby. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Instagram at the.worlds.team, on Twitter at _worlds_team, and on YouTube at the World's Team. How about them Cowboys?
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys? Yeah!
See you next time.